Oh, we're working on some dates. We'll see. I might, trying to get, it's always you got to work in advance. So we're trying to do some stuff maybe overseas. A couple of local shows, things like in the works. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, very good. In terms of records, are you having anything coming out in the future?
Yeah. Well, I'm working on a record now.
Yes.
So I've been working on it for a little bit. It usually takes me a little while to do it because, it's like I don't not really want to rush it. I don't want to come out with the same record that I did the last time. So, I got to make sure that the inspiration is there.
I understand. Going back, how did you get involved? Was the guitar something you picked up by choice, or did it come to you?
Basically, when I was a kid, my sister played. My older sister Barbara used to play like a folk guitar, like type of thing. And so I had three older sisters, so I was sort of like introduced to music that I probably normally would be listening to at a very young age. So she had I still have her Jimi Hendrix experience with original records, a lot of Rolling Stone stuff, and she used to play the acoustic guitar, and I started to mess around with it a little bit. She showed me a couple of chords, probably around 9 years old or so, and then around 11 years old, I started to take more interest in it, and I started to take private lessons from a local shop around here in Queens where I live.
Okay. Were you self-taught? Did you take lessons?
Yeah, I took lessons, and I'm a big believer in going to different teachers. You know what I mean? You could learn a lot from players. Also being in a band. I was in a band at a very young age, like 13 or 14, with older players. So you pick up a lot from playing with people that are better than you. Mm-hmm. So that kind of helped a lot, and I had I had some really good instructors in the beginning. There was a local music store called Larry Downs in Queens, New York, and Lisa and Larry Downs were the owners, so they kind of started me off with lessons, and then there was a couple of players that I still see around playing today. His name is Mark Newman. He's a really great blues player. He taught me a lot of cool stuff, and there was another teacher there. His name is Vinny. I can't remember his last name, but I mean, these two guys are what kind of opened it up for me. And then you kind of take it, you kind of learn, and then you go off and do your own thing,
Right. What did you have a band that you first came involved with? At what age?
Yeah. At 14, I was in a band. The band was called Vision, actually, and it was with another guitar player. His name is Tommy Bowen, who ended up being, the guitar player in Warlock for a while.
Tommy Bowen. I know I know him quite well. Yep, Tommy Bowen's got his own side. He's got his own band too. I forgot the name of it.
Yeah, it's called NYC, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called NYC. And that's and he's doing good. He's out on the road with Warlock this summer. Yeah.
I think he's supposed to be doing some guest appearances, right? For the record that he's on.
Yes. That's
cool.
He's doing some stuff with Dora, which that's good. It gives him good exposure.
Yeah.
What was your first guitar?
Well, my first guitar was my sister's. So I think it was called. I'm pronouncing it right. Sokovia. It was like an acoustic steel string. The action was ridiculous. So I started tinkering around on that for a while. And then my godmother ended up getting I guess she spoiled me. I got my first electric guitar, and she bought me a Gibson The Paul, it's called. It's like a wood walnut guitar. They don't make anymore. It was sort of like a streamlined Les Paul, and they called it The Paul, and it was cheaper than everything else, I remember at the time. So that was my first electric.
Wow. Do you still have it?
Yeah, I still have it.
Oh, great. At what time, now, was this a full-time career for you, or were you still doing something else when you were just learning to play the guitar in your later teens, early 20s?
Yeah, I was doing a lot of stuff. I was teaching. A lot of times I was teaching and playing in bands and stuff, and that's kind of what I was doing. I started teaching at an early age too.
Oh, wow. Now, were you doing more teaching than playing at that time?
Well, I was at that time, I was teaching and playing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I was doing. Plus, going to school, high school.
What age did you actually break out? Was there a certain point when you broke out on the scene and started getting some exposure?
I'm trying to think. I was in a lot of different. I was in some bands, when I was younger, in my teens and stuff, and then, the first big thing, that I think happened was around 1990. There was a guitar contest in New York. It was called New York's Best Guitarist or something like that. And I ended up winning that contest, and it was endorsed. It was judged by Guitarist and stuff like that, and that kind of gave me some exposure in some of the guitar magazines, Guitar for the Practicing Musician and stuff. And that's how I got my first endorsement with Guitarist. Was in 1990, and that's kind of gave me some good exposure. And at that time I was in some local bands, vocal type bands, and it just there was always problems with bands and that with vocalists, and that ended up really one of the reasons why I ended up starting to write my own instrumental material. And I kind of been working on songs from when I was a little kid, and I had some accumulative ideas, and I just started kind of working on them. And then my first record I released in 1995, and it was distributed through Relativity Records. So that was sort of the breakout period.
And you also got your degree in music performance?
Yes, I was going to college at Five Towns. Yes,
at Five Towns. Now your first CD, Balance.
Right.
That was given you had a lot of good feedback on that. How did was it nerve-wracking producing your first CD?
Well, the first CD, man, I kind of lucked out with things. The first CD was I ended up hooking up with this attorney in New York, and he had connections with the recording studio, the Power Station in the city, which is a major studio. Now it's called Avatar. And he, got a spec deal with the studio, and the studio owner at that time was actually Tony Bon Jovi, which is Bon Jovi's uncle or something like that. And that's where, Bon Jovi at that studio, the word that has it, on the street, that's where he kind of he was working in there, sweeping the floors and stuff, and that's where he was recorded a lot of their early stuff. So it's a really
pizza parlor really as we're doing.
So this guy got me into the studio spec deal, and Tony Bon Jovi was the guy that gave me this deal. It was a ridiculous deal. I mean, and the producer. Engineer, his name was Ben Fowler, who did a lot of really cool stuff, ended up producing and engineering that CD. And it was an experience. I mean, we in the studio. It's like when you think about what was done there. I mean, the Star Wars soundtrack was done in the same room that I did this record. Edelman Smile was done in there. I mean, all this cross clapping stuff. So I mean, it was a real experience. I was in there doing like recording, and Janet Jackson was down the way, and AC/DC was in the next room. It was like bizarre. And we ended up getting some really cool sounds. This guy really knew how to get good guitar sounds, and I learned a lot about the recording through working with him. And it was definitely an experience, and it took a while because we were on spec time, so it was like they would call me up and say, there's nobody in the studio, and it would be like 12 o'clock at night. All right, bring the band in, and we would stay in there from like 1 in the morning till 9 a.m. And then so it was all whenever it was available and it was empty. That's when we went in, and we did this over like the summer, and so it took us like around 2-3 months to do this, to do the record, and it was because we kept getting called back in and out,
Wow. Coming from the balanced days to today, how do you think you've evolved as a musician?
Well, the cool thing about it is that I remember when the first record came out. It's funny because the review, some of the reviews in Guitar World were like hummable shred, they called it, which I thought it still sticks with me to this day. And that's sort of like, what my kind of stuff is. I think I definitely progressed as a player, but also more than that is more of writing songs. So I consider my songwriting to have developed from the first record to now, and even the new material that I'm working on now. It's just the more you write, the more you experience just in life. To me, that makes you a better songwriter.
Right. Tell me, how did you get involved with Favored Nations and Steve Vai?
Well, so the first record was done, and in the meantime, I still had a job. I was working I was actually working at Relativity Records at that point, and I started doing the second record. And the first record, it was like an independent label distributed through Relativity, and it was a small label. They ended up like folding, and it was causing me to do this. I wanted to start working on the second record, so I ended up going back to Avatar Studios and worked with the same producer. So he Ben Fowler produced my second record, and I had it all recorded, you know what I mean? And this was like, let me see, 95, 96, the first one came out. So this probably between 97 and 99, I started to, I had all this material that I was writing. So I started to record the record. I was done recording in 1999. I had the finished masters and everything. And I just was trying to find a label, to be honest with you. It was very hard to find a label that I wanted to release it on. I wanted somebody that believed in the record, somebody who was going to do something with it, and I happened to be working at Relativity Records, and that's when Steve started. There's rumors around that he was starting Favored Nations. So I basically sent him, a letter saying that I had some, recorded record done already. Would he be into doing, putting it out? So it was funny because he got back to me and he said, I'm just starting this label up. Give me a couple of months, and then send it to me. So then, a couple of months passed by. Now it was like 2000 probably. I still didn't have any released it to anybody yet. Uh-huh. And I ended up sending it to him. And then he got back to me and he said to me, he said, Rob, I'm getting so many, at that time it was cassettes and stuff, He's like, I'm getting so many things from guitar players to listen to. And he says, I don't know,